This story begins with our protagonist, who just so happens to be an office worker, being summoned together with 3 more young people by the kingdom of Unisekai, who call them heroes and consider it a miracle that all the heroes have responded to their call. At that moment, the priest of the kingdom comes up to them to assess their abilities, letting us know that the blue-haired guy has the ability of Sacred Swordsman, while the girls have Sacred Magic, something that utterly amazes the princess, who asks them to please save the kingdom of Riseger. Right then, the priest notices our poor Prota, whom he evaluates as well, his ability being a pass-through online shop. That is to say, he will have to hustle even harder in order to be able to use his ability. Anyway, moving on from this, he introduces himself as Tsuyoshi Mukuda, and he is 27 little years old. The other heroes laugh at our humble Prota because of such an ability. This also discouraged our black-haired lead, who asks the priest whether by any chance there is not another ability. He denies it to him, telling him that it is the only ability he possesses. After this, we see the little Prota watching how the other heroes chat with the priests and the princess. Then the guy who assessed his ability comes over to tell him that since they summoned him, he will have to see his majesty together with the others. Thus we move on to the royal hall, with the king explaining to them that, since they are being attacked constantly by the demon king, they will lend them their strength to protect the kingdom of Riseger. In passing, they could get information out of the demon king, since he should know how to send them back home. The 3 heroes affirm that they will use their power to protect the kingdom, something that fascinates the king. All of this seems very shady to our office worker, who, interrupting, tells the king that his ability would not be very useful in combat. Therefore, he does not think he can be considered a hero, thinking thus that the best thing would be to look for a simple life without exposing himself as a being from another world. The king accepted this, since now we see Mukuda walking through the city, counting the little coins they gave him as part of the indemnity, which turn out to be 20 gold coins. While he was thinking about whether the money the king gave him was little or a lot, he hears people mention that those clothes he is wearing are very strange. Therefore, so as not to arouse suspicion, he goes shopping. So now we see him with more casual clothing. Upon arriving at an inn, he feels relieved not to have become a hero, since that royal family seemed very suspicious, thinking thus that he ought to leave the country as soon as possible. More relaxed, he tries opening his stats, being surprised at how awesome they are, because although he saw it in manga and anime, doing it in person is exciting. Thus he reads his abilities, which are a praise and item box. Then he reads his unique ability, which is still online shop. Therefore he tries to open it by shouting, "Come on in! Online shop!" Or well, something like that. However, nothing happens. Something he does not understand, since this is what they usually do in manga. But anyway, now he tries touching the name of the ability on the panel, finally managing to open his online shop. The pro, upon seeing that it looks like a normal website, gets a little disheartened. Even so, he thinks about buying a bottle of water, since it is easy to have stomach problems when you travel abroad. But when he clicks purchase, the page tells him that he does not have sufficient balance, telling him that he has to recharge. Mukuda, a little doubtful, puts a silver coin into the blank box, seeing how the coin disappears, and now trying to click purchase, where now indeed the purchase is confirmed. Because of this, miraculously, a bright light appears at his side, from which a box comes out, and inside it are his 2 orders. This seems very awesome to him, since with this ability, as long as he has money he will not starve, thinking therefore that he must leave the country no matter what. The next day we see him in a carriage bound for Kiels. While chatting with a traveling merchant, he finds out that soap is a very luxurious article, since that gentleman only managed to get a little of it. Then he asks him whether by any chance he has it stored in his item box. The gentleman denies it, mentioning that 1 out of every 1,000 people has that ability. Mook, somewhat curious, asks him about the appraise ability. The good man answers that this ability is the most desired by merchants, but that only the heroes have it. Upon hearing this, he knows he cannot allow them to suspect him. There the gentleman asks him the reason for his trip to KS. Then Mook explains that he was thinking of crossing the border to go to the neighboring country. Upon hearing this, the vendor tells him that he made a very good decision, since there are rumors that the country is going to close its borders because troubles are approaching in the kingdom of Riseger, something that leaves our protagonist surprised, and he was right, since upon arriving in the city Mukuda finds to his surprise that travel transports have been temporarily suspended. Therefore he asks some hunters, and they tell him that they suspended the carriages so that people would not leave the country. For if the population decreases, they will not have soldiers for their troops whatsoever. That said, they advise him to leave as quickly as possible. With this, Mukua is glad to have left the country as soon as possible, now thinking about how to solve his problem. Thus we see him at the guild, since he plans to hire companions for his trip, explaining thus to the receptionist that the journey will be on foot, with the destination being the kingdom of Benin. The young lady, very kindly, tells him that usually that kind of request costs 7 gold coins, but due to the increase in similar requests, she suggests increasing the payment to 8 gold coins, something that seems like a ripoff. But he accepts anyway. Once the deposit is made, the young lady calls a group of adventurers, turning toward a very beefy blonde. He comes over, so the receptionist asks him if he can accompany our prota to the kingdom of Benin, taking advantage of the fact that he also was thinking of going. It is then that the beefy blonde introduces himself, letting us know that his name is Werner of the Iron Will, and that he is a rank C adventurer. There our little prota tells him that they should not worry about food, since he does not dislike cooking. And moreover, with his ability it would not be difficult for him to get the ingredients, although this last part obviously he only thinks. This seems fabulous to the adventurer, who asks him if he wants to go right away. Our prota answers that if possible, yes. The big guy understands this, so they agree to leave at dawn. Thus, the next day we see them gathered, introducing the group. Rita the scout, Vincent the swordsman, Franca the healer, and Roman the mage. With this they begin the journey, but come noon they stop to rest. Mukua takes advantage of this, since he wants to cook something to eat. Therefore he takes a portable stove out of his item box, something that surprises Vincent and Rita, since it already seemed odd to them that he was traveling so light. Also, this magic burner looks awesome. Their Moku says that a friend gave it to him as a gift, although this is a lie since he bought it from the online shop, because the one they offered him in that shop was a robot. But anyway, once he finishes cooking, when the guys taste the food they are fascinated by the texture and flavor of the dishes. Lunchtime finished, they continue on their way. But then Rita notices that the leaves of a tree are moving. Therefore the whole team goes on alert. At that moment 2 flying bugs come out, which are eliminated easily by Werner and Vincent, something that surprises our prota. While the boys are healed by Franca, Rita informs them that there is a red boar up ahead. This does not worry Werner, who tells Roman to lure the boar with his magic. And when he does so, such a beast can be seen approaching. But once again Werner and Vincent, with total ease, surprise our Makota even more, making him think that rank C folks are very strong. After bleeding the boar, they think about what to do with the leftover meat of the animal, since they do not want to waste so much meat. Therefore Mukua offers to carry all that meat in his item box, which the big guy considers a very good idea. Hours later, night has already fallen, and we see them waiting for our prota to finish cooking. However, this makes Makota a little nervous, who asks them to please not look at him so much, since it embarrasses him. Once he finishes cooking, the sausage stew causes them to be utterly amazed at its taste, so much so that they even ask for more. This seems strange to Makota, who asks them whether it is really good. There they answer him that they normally eat jerky and hard bread. Therefore eating hot food is very pleasant. Rita comments that now she feels as if she has much more strength. This seems odd to our hero prota, since he did not add anything apart from the ingredients. Using appraise, he realizes that their strength and magic points have increased, thinking thus that this is very dangerous, since if anyone were to find out, they would kidnap him and treat him like a slave. While they were eating, we see how they are stalked by a huge beast. Then the next day they camp again in the forest. Therefore they divide up the tasks, looking to the prota to prepare the food, chopping the cabbage, marinating the meat, and, with the pan hot, he sets about frying the meat, something the youngsters sniff, thinking it is going to turn out very tasty. With everything served, their palates are delighted, saying that everything is truly delicious. They even make their own red boar meat sandwich. The beast from the previous night continues watching this. Thus, while they are chatting, the kids start to break out in a cold sweat, since a Fenrir is standing behind Mukua. The massive beast, with an imposing voice, orders Mukuta to give him that food he has on his plate. With not many more options, he obeys. The beast, eating the food in a single bite, demands that he give him more. However, our protagonist tells him that there is no more, and in that case he should wait for him to prepare it. The massive beast accepts this. Therefore, we see poor Mukuta prepare an enormous plate of red boar meat. Even so, the Fenrir finishes it in one bite, asking for even more. So Mook makes another plate, and they continue like that until he cannot go on anymore. Now we see Mukuta dead tired, and the wolf, well, very satisfied. The latter, emphasizing that he has been surprised and moreover that he likes him very much, tells him that he will make a contract with him. Our black-haired one, confused, asks what he means, so Wolf repeats to him that they are going to seal a familiar contract, something that, of course, surprises the group of adventurers. Mukold, scared, cannot believe that a beast capable of speaking and of frightening Werner's group is proposing to seal a contract with him. Therefore he tries to refuse, but the beast, with just a look, does not allow him to keep speaking. So Mukua, turning to look at the others, understands that he has no other choice but to accept. Thus he answers that he agrees. With this understood, the Fenra asks him to come closer, sealing the familiar contract, stressing to him that from now on he must be responsible for his well-being, making it clear that he will have to give him his 3 meals a day, something that terrifies Mukuta's wallet. Now he explains to us that thanks to his online shop he can see prices reflected from Japan, with a copper coin being 100 yen, the price of a sweet bun, something considered a luxury in this world. And, counting his money, he starts to think that he should save since, well, he cannot neglect the meals of his new friend. Back to the present, the Fenrir orders him to give him a name as a familiar, something that Mukua, after thinking too much, chooses to name him Fel since, well, he is a Fenrir. This pleases the canine, who, very satisfied, accepts, thus ending the night. Then the next day, while they continue the journey, Mukua realizes that the people they pass by end up stepping aside from the road. Therefore he turns to look at the others, and when he sees Werner give a slight sigh, he asks him whether something is wrong. So he answers that it is nothing, but that he still does not know what to do. There the others also tell him that they are sure they will be stopped at the checkpoints since, well, they have a Fenrir, the very beast that destroyed an entire country a long time ago, and it is very likely that the king, upon finding out, would send the authorities of the kingdom. This does not please our prota at all, since, as we recall, he only wanted a peaceful life. That is why he left Reisger. Then Fel says to him that he should not worry, since he will take care of anyone who gets in his way. But he changes the subject and reminds him that it is already about time for him to give him his midday meal. Therefore now we see them resting while Mukuta is looking for the ingredients for the meal. But noticing that he has little red boar meat left, he asks Fel to go hunt, since it is because of him that the red boar meat ran out. The imposing beast accepts, since he knows that he is right. Therefore he asks him to wait while he goes to hunt something. This very thing surprises the kids, since Mukua gave orders to a Fenrir and he obeyed. Then Fel comes back with a rock bird, which is a rank B monster, Werner saying that he does not think his group would be capable of hunting something like that. That said, they begin to butcher the bird to sell its parts and cook its meat, and then prepare some succulent dishes. With everyone full, they continue the journey, finally arriving at the border of Benin. However, using his spyglass, they see the guards all in an uproar over the possible presence of a Fenrir. Therefore our captain, acting all macho, tells them that he will go try to talk with them, something that worries Mukuta a little. But he is calmed by Vincent, since he knows that their leader will convince them somehow. Well, not quite like that, since upon arriving he is surrounded by several soldiers. There the captain of the army asks him whether it is true that that Fenrir signed a contract with him, something that our prota confirms. Because of this, the captain informs him that if for any reason that Fenrir puts the kingdom in danger or causes damage, consequences will follow. But Mukuta interrupts him, asking Fel whether he will cause problems for the kingdom. He denies it, asking him not to compare him with those filthy beasts. Upon hearing this, the captain confirms that the Fenrir does indeed have a contract. Thus, with no other option, he allows them entry.